And it's just the fact that many of these Sonic tubers would never actually want to publicly respond to me. Fukurou skips over why Sonic says, "Yeah, I guess so." You can't make a point about how somebody is literally pretending to feel a certain way and then say it's maybe a facade. Sonic gives his perspective on things regularly. What are you talking about? Jesus, I'm being forced to analyze Sonic 06 here. The more appropriate analysis of the Sonic and Elise scenes. I'm a very petty person.
Eggman Empire. Authorization approved. Access granted.
What is happening, troglodytes? My name is KotyTang. First off, let me say sorry. My time has been occupied by the banger of a game that is Dragon's Dogma 2, the pretty cool Rise of the Ronin, and the game of the year, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. So let's just get this out of the way. The conception of this video came from Fukurou-Hoseki hiding my comments on her video, Sonic the Hedgehog character analysis, introverted type. If you go to her video at the time of this upload, you won't see my comments anywhere, but I have them screenshotted, so here they are. I don't necessarily agree with everything I said, as I've done a ton of research for this video, and my knowledge in that moment was limited to what I grew up learning about introverts and extroverts. Thanks to over 2 weeks of research, I know for a fact that Fukurou has no idea what she's talking about. In this video, we'll be discussing a headcanon. Now, headcanons are fine and harmless in the vast majority of cases, as people usually acknowledge that they're just headcanons. But then there's a section of people that present their headcanons as fact, exposing their stupidity with non-factual statements and false conclusions. I'm pretty sure that Fukurou didn't even read my comment at all, because I claim that she's obscuring information in my second sentence, and that hurt her feelings. I guess she just wanted to remain wrong. Before we begin, here's some important pieces of advice that everyone can take anywhere. Be very careful when you hear people giving an opinion if they refuse to openly engage in discussion with the opposing side of their idea, especially when it's something you've never heard before. Even further, anybody who is unable to properly engage while in an argument with the opposing side of their opinion either has no idea what they're even talking about, or they are aware that their ideas are complete and utter bullshit. If someone cannot or flat out refuses to further detail the nuances of their argument after presenting it, don't trust that person on that topic. It means that they are aware that by earnestly participating in the argument, they would prove that they are either lying or wrong. With that said, I will openly discuss with as many people as I can in the comments. Everyone is free to try and argue with me about anything said in this video. Or you could always just say I did a good job, that'd be sweet. Now if you're normal, it's obvious Sonic's not an introvert. The only thing you can truly reference is his appreciation for his alone time. He's also not an extrovert, because Sonic is an ambivert. At first, I didn't even feel a need to prove this. But the way Fukurou describes Sonic reminds me of that episode of SpongeBob where Bubble Bass hid the Krabby Patty pickles under his tongue. Once you realize the trick that Fukurou is pulling, it's like,
look! He's been hiding the
truth
under his tongue the whole time.
And there's the pickles from last time, too!
And there's my car keys.
And there's my ride.
I'm going to prove that either Fukurou is really bad at research, in which case no one should take anything she says seriously, or that she's a disingenuous person and an extremely unreliable source. I noticed that she leaves a lot of information out, and I'm a very factual person. That's how I write my videos, at least. I actually have to spend a large amount of time researching and reconfirming something before I finally say it. I believe that it would be embarrassing to be caught in such an easily disprovable lie. Of course, I may get some things wrong or change how I feel about something over time, but my overall philosophy remains. Everybody has a chance to change my mind, but I don't like liars, especially those who lie as argumentation. This isn't the first Sonic Tuber I've left a comment on, and it's just the fact that many of these Sonic Tubers would never actually want to publicly respond to me, mainly because it'd be a bad look for them and give me free publicity. More often than not, I'm only typing a comment because they're largely incorrect about multiple things, as a shocking amount of the Sonic community are. In the rare event that they do respond, we can have a fun discussion and that'll be the end of it. You're free to continue lying to your audience. But there will always be the Fukurou-Hosekis that feel they should go the extra mile. My comment is so damning to them that they can't have the public seeing that, so that comment has gotta go. And that means you just censored me. And, well, I don't really appreciate being censored against my will. I have to accept the terms to that first. I like my voice being heard. Clearly, Fukurou likes hers being heard. So if we both like our voices being heard, now why would you do that? Now my feelings are hurt. If she hid my comment, I can only imagine the other comments she's hidden or flat out deleted. Now Fukurou doesn't have an obligation to watch or even respond here. I'll even give her more leeway than most, since she's a Sonic Tuber. A lot of the times when Sonic Tubers make a discussion video, they aren't asking for discussion. They just want the attention. See, when somebody like me comes around and I expose the flaws in the words they speak, suddenly they get defensive and find an excuse for why they can't interact with me. Well, it's pretty hard to censor a video unless you want to go down a very shady route as a YouTuber. And of course, by doing that, you also prove that, well, you know I'm right. Honestly, just don't lie, and we're on good terms. Oh, and don't hide or delete my comments. I have a YouTube channel, and I will use it against you. Here's how this is gonna work. Throughout the video, you'll see that Fukurou pretends Sonic is an introvert based on how she sees an introvert. First, I'm going to prove that she's not using introvert nor extrovert correctly, which will shatter her entire argument right off the bat, and the video is pretty much over at that point. But just for fun, I'm then going to use Fukurou's own definition of introvert to prove that she just made all of this up. All the timestamps will be right on the video, so you can jump to whatever part you want to hear. So without further ado, here we go. Here is Fukurou's definition of an introvert.
An introvert is someone not keen on social situations, contains inward thinking, has only a couple of close friends, likes to recharge their batteries in their own company, and keeps any feelings to themselves. The negative terms can be described as aloof, arrogant.
Fukurou's definition of introvert is incorrect. It starts with the presupposition that if you are an introvert, therefore this is how you act. She has gone into the argument with the assumption that she's already correct and is therefore not trying to prove anything. However, the majority of her words are not found in any definition of introvert for psychology. Whether by accident or intentionally, what Fukurou gave was a list of qualities that she believes an introvert should have in most cases. What she's actually describing are traits that are commonly lumped in with introverts. In other words, stereotypes. As I'll show in a moment, she acknowledges that fact, discrediting her own definition. There is nothing holding back an extrovert from being boring as hell or a loser. Think of the most annoying person. They're an extrovert. Talking to people makes them feel good. On the other end, there is nothing holding back an introvert from being extremely entertaining and very popular. Think of Bo Burnham. Extremely popular, considered to be a very entertaining comedian, introvert. He made a comedy special that even dives into this aspect of his life. If you use the logic that Fukurou uses, then you will find that every single person in the world is an ambivert. Why? Simple. Because every single additional trait of an extrovert or introvert that are described by pseudo-intellectuals and TED Talkers cross-connect. Just find a video or some goofy-ass study that kind of sounds like you, and even you can be an introvert. If anybody ever concedes on the point that introverts and extroverts can have the same traits, then you are conceding on the point that Fukurou's video is wrong. The only true way to define an introvert is to know which activity rewards a person through a proper dopamine release. Yeah, just like most things, there's an actual science behind it. But I'm going to make it very simple for you. This is how you know which one you are. If your idea of a great time is hanging out with yourself, you're an introvert. If your idea of a great time is hanging out with people, you're an extrovert. If both equally sound like a great time to you, you're an ambivert. Let's see what an actual psychologist says about what an introvert and extrovert is. One that isn't loaded by biases made by tests to define how you're supposed to act.
I was going to tell you the extroverted question. Does being around groups of people make you energetic or does it exhaust you? And if you're the sort of person that, you know, will go to a party and interact with 20 people, then you have to go home and be by yourself for like 2 weeks, then you're introverted. Introverts are exhausted by social interactions. Extroverts are the opposite. They're energized by social interactions. And you know, you might be in the middle so that you can take it or leave it with regards to social interactions, but you're happy to go to them and you're happy to spend time by yourself.
The definition of introvert, when defined by psychology, is one who is predominantly concerned with their own thoughts and feelings, and an extrovert is described as the opposite of this. When just used to describe somebody, it uses specific descriptors that they are a shy, reticent person, because that's the assumption of an introvert. As you'll discover the further into this we go, shyness doesn't mean you're an introvert. Extroverts can be shy too, socially awkward even. I'll even throw up some additional definitions for you to read, and you'll see that the only true psychological definition of an introvert is that an introvert is somebody who simply prefers to be alone. So now if we go back to Fukurou's definition, you can clearly see that hers is fabricated. The true definition says nothing about having only a couple of close friends, nor does it say that they keep their feelings to themselves. What her definition does get correct is that introverts are not keen on social situations. Introverts recharge their batteries in their own company, and they think inwardly. She's describing an introvert while also applying false stereotypes to them. Look, if you're going to prove something is true, then should it not be supported by the actual fact of the matter in order for it to be true? A correct version of her definition would be this: introvert, one who explores their thoughts internally, requires more alone time than usual, and doesn't enjoy much social interaction. Let's look at the negative traits that she's ascribed to introverts. Aloof. Now, that one's pretty fair. You're not really attached to something if you're aloof, and if you would rather be alone, then that would make sense. And then she throws in arrogant. To be arrogant is to have an exaggerated sense of one's own importance or abilities. That seems to directly contradict her definition, where she says that they don't show any feeling, but okay. So you guys tell me, does Fukurou sound like she knows the definition of the words she's using? Or is this just her own idea of the words, not supported by the actual definitions? Fukurou claims that she's an introvert, but by her idea of an introvert, this video should not exist, because she shouldn't want to tell anybody her thoughts and feelings at all. Well, I'm an introvert too, and I don't relate to her on how she describes introverts. That's a red flag. Now that you and I have proven that Fukurou has no idea what introvert and extrovert mean, we can get to the fun part, dismantling her video. As requested by Fukurou, we will only be using the Japanese dub of Sonic to support our counter-argument.
俺はソニック。ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグだ。なるほどね。任せとけって、こういうパターンは慣れっこさ。俺は俺さ。冒険好きのただのハリネズミ。ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグさ。
なるほど。だが君の存在はもはや無視できなくなった。
Since Fukurou has never provided the definition of an extrovert, I'm going to do what she did and make up my own version of extrovert. If her definition doesn't have to be based on facts, then my counter definition gets to be whatever I want as well. I'll of course add the opposing sides to her definition. So here's her bullshit definition of introvert, and now here's my bullshit definition of extrovert. Extrovert. Someone keen on social situations, is socially confident, expresses their thoughts visually and outwardly. Extroverts have a huge collection of friends to choose from and like to recharge their battery in the company of others. They can make anything fun, often putting their feelings on full display whether through expression or conversation. They seek adventurous activities and can easily make friends with anybody. They're very approachable and not concerned about how others think of them, often focusing on making everybody around them feel good. And, what else? Introverts can't be leaders. There's nothing inspiring about a shut-in, am I right? So, somebody who is usually seen as a leader. Negatives of an introvert can include too happy, easily excitable, and quick to rush in without thinking things through. Sounds pretty extroverted to me. Now here's 3 damning statements that Fukurou says before she jumps into the meat of her video.
The characters that fit the description of introvert better would be Blaze, Shadow, or Knuckles.
She considers Knuckles an introvert. Noted.
The stereotypes of an introvert is someone shy, hates people, and so on. This isn't necessarily true, as the social butterfly extrovert can be extremely shy towards social gatherings and then later catch their vibe.
So, she is aware of the stereotypes and confirms that these are not actual descriptors to decide if somebody is an introvert. Noted.
Some may fit Sonic in the ambivert personality type, being a combination of both intro and extrovert. However, I'm going to try and debunk this and explain why introvert fits better, being a fellow introvert myself.
Keyword, try. So she's admitting that she knows Sonic's not an introvert here. Noted. So here's her first example.
In most opening of games or animes, Sonic is seen alone, usually relaxing or napping. He becomes slightly irritated when something or someone interrupts his alone time. In the OVA, he's reluctant to save Old Owl until the last second. He's also annoyed at Tails constantly yelling at him when he's trying to nap.
Sonic OVA. Already starting off on the wrong foot, using a non-canon movie to prove her point. If you use any sort of non-canon thing to enforce the personality of a character, you already lose a point in credibility. She'll try to bring up Sonic X as another supplementary material multiple times, so I'll just address it here. While it's perfectly fine to make an analysis while talking about the spin-offs themselves, it's not okay to use the spin-offs as a way to prove Sonic's character from the games. At any point of your argument, somebody can just say, that's not canon, so it never happened. And guess what? That means it's not true.
After the battle with Chaos, Sonic is sleeping by the hotel pool until he sees Tails crash the tornado. He uses a questionable choice of words, as it sounds like he's a bit reluctant to go. It isn't out of negativity towards Tails. Sonic was recharging his batteries and something out of the blue jerks him awake. He doesn't want to interrupt his alone time to then suddenly jump into adventure.
She's correct that Sonic doesn't want his alone time interrupted. Think about it like this. Have you ever been forced to get up while napping or sleeping? Sonic displays a natural reaction for many people being awoken. Fukurou says that Sonic was recharging his batteries and then he's jolted awake. So, anytime Sonic is relaxing, is he always just recharging his batteries? Even when Sonic hasn't done anything, is he recharging? Is that really the point you're making here?
Tails states that it's been a long time since they've seen one another, and Sonic just simply says, yeah, I guess so. Sonic's unaware of the time that's passed, but clearly long enough for him not to engage with a conversation with any of his friends. This isn't done out of malice. After almost every adventure, he runs off on his own. He's done his job, engaged with his friends, and now wants some downtime.
Fukurou skips over why Sonic says, yeah, I guess so. Sonic's next line is, this is either a failure on her end to read the room, or she is purposely hiding information to make it seem like Sonic is more concerned about being away from everybody than worrying about his friends. Sonic is clearly more concerned about the fact that Tails was in danger than he is with catching up. maybe it's just me, but when I look up a scene, I make sure to watch the entire thing. If needed, I'll even watch a huge chunk of the story, if not all of it, just to get the most out of what I'm watching. So, is Fukurou collectively choosing which lines to use for her video? Would you call that lying? I guess we can say it's not revealing the truth, right? Well, let's get into her space for a second, okay? If Fukurou isn't lying, did she just hear the line, pause the video, clip the scene, put it in her editor, and call it a day?
A lot of the games pre-2010 contain the phrase, long time no see. The timing could be any length of time, from days, weeks, or months, or years.
Since we're on the topic of people saying long time no see, Fukurou is accidentally implying that everybody in the cast is an introvert. Just about everybody has said long time no see to somebody and didn't proceed to catch up with them afterward.
Long time no see.
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 Long time no see. Long time no see.
Long time no see. Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
Long time no see.
You can't just assume this point. For all she knows, Sonic and Tails could have hung out a week ago. No, wait. Actually, I think I just realized something. Does Fukurou think that realizing somebody is an introvert or an extrovert means that you can predict the exact words and phrases somebody will say in a conversation? No shot could she genuinely believe that. She isn't gonna try and claim that a character would act a certain way or say something later on, right? Well, could you imagine if this scene was closer to what Fukurou thinks should happen to disprove that Sonic is an introvert? I know my plane just crashed and I'm thankfully not suffering from any injuries or trauma after almost losing my life to what could have been a devastating accident, but that's okay, because long time no see, Sonic. Yo, Tails, what's been going on? Well, get this. After our incredible adventure from Sonic 2 and 3, I decided to just kind of soul search. It's been a great ride kind of doing my own thing and all that. Once you left, life just seemed real slow and unreal, to be honest. And even when I tried to fill it. And that's how I found out that my two tails isn't my only double mutation. So anyway, that leads us to now. I was just trying to test this emerald out in the tornado when suddenly everything went crazy. What a fascinating collection of stories. I forgot all about the plane and the context to the scenes that happened prior. Guess I was just too interested in catching up on my friend's life, following that horrific sight I just witnessed, you know? Oh, Sonic, you're such an extrovert.
Sonic is not as vocal in large groups. As soon as more people are added in the closer knit of Knuckles and Tails, Sonic is almost silent. He only ever speaks up if he has something of value to say. He's not typically the first to speak out. This can be seen in almost every Sonic game pre-2010, and both animes.
This example contradicts Fukurou's earlier statement, where she says that Knuckles is an introvert. Well, I wouldn't say that Knuckles isn't an introvert. Here, Fukurou shows scenes where Knuckles is outwardly spoken, including when he's in large groups. This is a contradiction for Fukurou's definition specifically. If you remember, she said introverts keep all of their feelings to themselves. And that's why she shows Sonic not really talking. So, is Knuckles now an extrovert in your attempt to prove Sonic is an introvert? Because you just showed me that Knuckles has no problem talking in groups. This also ignores Sonic's straight-to-the-point attitude, the one where he doesn't waste time on details and would rather be figuring out what's happening actively. Sonic knows when to be quiet and when it's time to speak, especially in serious scenarios. This is simply a fact of his character. Is there anything in the definition of extrovert that prevents them from knowing when to talk and when to be quiet? What would you say Sonic needs to actively be doing in order to not be an introvert for scenes like this? Because if you say say talking, then you can see that Knuckles is no longer an introvert. Fukurou makes the claim that Sonic isn't typically the first to say something, which, surprise, is not true. It's actually just as likely that Sonic does speak first. She says that this can be seen in almost every Sonic game pre-2010. So here's a compilation of Sonic speaking first, pre-2010.
こいつはキリがないな。
二手に分かれよう。
ナコズ。さっきのなかなかだったぜ。エミ？
大きな声出さないで。
あれは
あの時のハリネズミか。こんな時に
見つけたぜ、この偽物野郎。
偽物？フェイクは君の方じゃないのか？
あのピラミッドの中に？
ああ、エッグマンのやつが入ってくのを確かに見たぜ。
This is such a biased statement, and it can't even be used as a point. The context of the scene determines if Sonic will be the first to talk in any conversation. On top of that, there's an obligation that the writers have in making sure that one character doesn't get the entirety of the dialogue. Fukurou claims that Sonic's not really comfortable with big crowds. Do you remember in Sonic Unleashed, pre-2010, when Eggman was in Missouri and instead of just immediately fighting Eggman, Sonic takes a bit to gloat and taunt him in front of everyone in the village, then turns to them to make sure they're alright. At no point does Sonic seem nervous there, and that's an entire village behind him. Well, what about at the start of Sonic 06, pre-2010, when Sonic kicked up a huge gust storm before showing himself off just to make sure all eyes were on him? He literally could have just destroyed Eggman's robots while they had no idea he was even there, but chose not to, this time in front of an entire city during a festival.
There are some events where Sonic is shown to just watch and process what is happening, and if he must intervene, he does so when he fully understands the situation. A great example is in Sonic Riders Zero Gravity. As Sonic and Co enter Meteortech premises, they meet the Babylon Rogues. During the meetup, Jet begins to accuse Amy. The entire time, Sonic watches what Jet is saying and doesn't defuse the situation until Jet is finished. An extrovert would jump into the fray to immediately stop the negativity. Sonic instead observes and thinks on what he's going to say. This isn't a comparison as it depends the person. The whole point of an introvert is they are inward-thinking people, and an extrovert is outward-thinking and will say exactly what is on their mind. Sonic, in this situation, doesn't do this.
For one, in this scenario, Sonic is literally trying to find out why Jet is mad. Two, she did it. Fukurou did the thing again, where she forces a string of dialogue or action onto somebody just for being an introvert or extrovert. Being an extrovert doesn't mean you immediately jump in to defend somebody. That doesn't have any basis in what it means to be an extrovert. That just comes down to who you are as a person. An extrovert may very well sit back and listen before taking on what somebody is saying. And an extrovert may even say nothing at all. What's even funnier is that when Jet is done talking, Sonic doesn't address anything that he said. He just taunts him for being mean to a girl. What Fukurou's actually describing is called action and inaction. Being an introvert or an extrovert does not determine if you will react or not. Both are capable of waiting until a person is done talking to respond. Some more examples. Could an extrovert just not be a mediator in her world? Do all extroverts have to speak at all times? They can never be quiet? Or does the context of the scene suddenly matter here, but not for Sonic and Tails' conversation in Adventure 1?
The times he does become outwardly confident and become a little more outspoken is when fighting Eggman or Eggman's robots. Maybe this could be a type of poker face, or a genuine sense of fun. Introverts can suddenly come out of their shells when a topic interests them, and we know Sonic loves adventure. During these battles, Sonic will begin to berate Eggman and wind the scientist up.
Sonic is outspoken with nearly every single antagonist. Eggman isn't the only one. This is just not true. In fact, Sonic literally does this to Jet, the character she's using as an example that Sonic doesn't act that way toward in the same game.
貴様じゃ追いつけない。邪魔だからどいてろ。それはどうかな。見せてやるぜ。今までに体験したことのないスピードの世界を。 翼なんかなくったって風にはなれんさ。Right?
Sonic even antagonizes Jet in Zero Gravity as well.
とぼけるな。俺たちが手に入れた星の性質をまんまと奪いやがって。おいおい待てよ。しつこい男は嫌われるぜ。
Shadow is a perfect example that she's wrong. Sonic was quick to fight the dude and had all types of things to say when they first met. Sonic's banter with Shadow even continued to amp up throughout the game. When Sonic first met Caliburn, it was mostly snide comments and jabs at each other the entire game. And Caliburn isn't even an antagonist. Eraser Jin, again, nothing but smack talk. Even the same with King Arthur. One of Sonic's favorite things to do against antagonists seems to be taunting them. Jet is not a part of the conversation in this.
Sonic overall is a deep thinker. The cruel stereotype that he's the jock is not correct. He understands basic terminology. When Tails explains the theory of how extreme boards are able to float, Sonic silently listens, whereas Knuckles is the one to get agitated and confused. Sonic happily listens and doesn't question what is said.
Nobody has ever earnestly subscribed to the idea that Sonic was a jock. What, are you saying that extroverts don't have the ability to think clearly? Are they all just dumb? Fukurou says that Sonic silently listens to Tails as he explains Extreme Gear. While Knuckles gets agitated and confused, Sonic happily listens and doesn't question what's said. Okay, is it not weird to anybody that Fukurou's defined both Sonic and Knuckles as introverts, and then says that Knuckles is agitated and confused, while Sonic isn't, so Sonic is an introvert for this? Is she not aware of the comparison she's making?
Sonic is willing to stay in prison during the events of Sonic Adventure 2, to think about Shadow and the problem he was in.
Sonic is willing to stay in prison to think about Shadow and the problem that he's in. That is literally not what happened. And even what Sonic is saying on screen while she's saying this contradicts that. Sonic states that he purposely got captured by Gun to look for clues on who Shadow is, not be in prison and think deeply about his life and what's happening. Let's dispel this immediately. In the opening of SA2, Sonic is captured by Gun, and then they surround him after his fight with Shadow and capture him again. Why do you think Gun can't catch Sonic again? And when you really look at the scene, Sonic is literally not able to look for anything trapped inside of a cell. I'm surprised you didn't lump this scene into Sonic trying to hide his true feelings and not tell Amy that he actually did get caught. In fact, Amy, Miss Extroverted herself, as described by you,
Amy is depicted as an extrovert character,
is the one who ends up actually capable of noticing the writing on the walls of the cell. Well, that's an interesting ability an extrovert has, to be able to sit back and observe. Doesn't that directly contradict how you described extroverts?
The misunderstanding of Sonic and his concealment of feelings. For the most part, Sonic is either a blank slate, angry, or determined in battle, maybe cracking the odd joke. The big no-no is Sonic's inability to cry, another classic introvert trait. They simply don't like their true feelings to be shown.
Fukurou says that Sonic is unable to cry and that's an introvert trait for them to hide their feelings. This is, once again, literally not true. Fukurou just made that up. Both introverts and extroverts can hide their feelings for entirely separate or even the same reasons. It also, once again, contradicts her saying that Knuckles is an introvert because he's unable to hide his true feelings. He's constantly angry and frustrated. So is Knuckles an extrovert to her because Knuckles is willing to display that he's angry? Also, Sonic displays his feelings all the time. Sonic, canonically, has the ability to make friends with almost any individual in the entire world. Whether it's Merlina, Marine, Blaze, Tails, and so on and so on. Sonic pretty much always speaks his mind freely. When he wants something or feels like he needs to say something, he's gonna say it. Sonic not displaying negative emotions is a trait of who he is. He naturally looks on the positive side of things. It has nothing to do with him being an introvert or an extrovert. One of my favorite moments from her video is when Fukurou tries to say that Sonic is reserved when he loses the race against Jet and doesn't want to show his true anger by punching the ground instead. What?
We know Sonic has a temper and will let it out in the process of battle. But when he's angry with characters like Jet, he's more reserved. When he loses the race against Jet, he just grunts and punches the ground. With a frustrating event like that, you'd expect Sonic to rage out at Jet, but doesn't. 2 reasons for this. First is, he doesn't want to show his true anger to someone who is a friendly rival. And second, there's a crowd watching the events unfold.
Sonic verbally grunting and punching the ground is not a reserved way to handle anything. Go outside and punch the ground and tell me that isn't unhinged behavior. Was that a genuine point or is she joking? Here's Jet punching the ground after Sonic did some sleaze bullshit too. So I guess Jet is now part of Team Introvert too for his reserved reaction. I just don't understand how this is happening. Did she even properly research anything for this video? It kind of makes me think of something. Something that I just don't want to forget about saying. Be sure to subscribe to the channel if you've been enjoying. I've got plenty of Sonic content for your eyes. If there's a creator that you want me to try and interact with, let me know in the comments below and be sure to tell them about me too. Now back to the video.
This isn't to say that Sonic has never shown emotion. He has let that poker face slip on the odd occasion. He was upset when Amy couldn't recognize him as the werehog, and he screams out in anguish as he watches Elise and Shara die.
Using deaths as Sonic letting his emotion slip is mad crazy. Getting upset while watching people dying in front of you is not an emotional slip. Oh my god. Also, once again, there's nothing that says an extrovert nor an introvert hides or doesn't hide their true feelings. We can always resort to our definitions again and see how they match up. An introvert is more likely to hide their true emotions because they're more comfortable processing how they feel internally, which matches how you say they hide all their feelings. And on the other side, an extrovert may choose to hide their emotions in order to enhance the positive outlook for others. In other words, to bring other people up, which is exactly what Sonic does. You know whose definition supports that? That's right, mine!
Sonic doesn't like the center of attention or being in the public eye. He does his job because he feels it's right, not for fame. He doesn't take compliments well. He's normally bashful and will, on the odd occurrence, blush. If someone does compliment him, he either awkwardly laughs, brushes off the statement, or quickly moves on to the next subject.
Fukurou uses a lot of Sonic X to prove her next point, so I'll only tackle the games that she brings up. The topic is that Sonic doesn't like the center of attention or compliments. In no instance is it proven that Sonic dislikes being praised or complimented. In fact, if anything, in Black Knight, it's actually shown that Sonic takes somebody not complimenting him very poorly, as Caliburn refuses to acknowledge anything Sonic has done throughout the game. Sonic even ends up commenting on this.
どうだか。おいおい、そろそろ俺の実力を認めてくれてもいいんじゃないのか?
Fukurou tries to slip in Sonic 06 as Sonic being shy toward compliments. Jesus, I'm being forced to analyze Sonic 06 here. The more appropriate analysis of the Sonic and Elise scenes would be to show how Sonic deals with girls flirting or speaking sensitively to him. That isn't Sonic being an introvert, it's him not having a romantic side. So women that clearly like him, giving compliments and touching him makes him uneasy. He's just awkward around women that like him. Let's not leave out that Sonic has no problem with touching and complimenting people who just treat him as a friend. By the way, what exactly is stopping an extrovert from being shy around the opposite sex? Fukurou next tries to slip in Tails complimenting Sonic and writers. In response, Sonic laughs at Tails complimenting him, and then is interrupted by Jet before he can speak. Sonic has received numerous compliments throughout the series, and hasn't really gotten bashful over most of them. He's even given compliments back at times. Fukurou uses Sonic saying that Shara is making him blush in response to Shara info-dumping his legendary status. which, again, is not how she describes an introvert would act in her video. According to her, an introvert would never reveal how embarrassed somebody is making them. They gotta hide their true feelings, remember? Oh, maybe this is one of those slip-ups in the way that, you know, Sonic directly stating that he's feeling an emotion is a slip-up. Here's an example of Sonic taking a compliment from Chara very well, in fact, within literally the first few scenes of the game. Fukurou uses Black Knight to show that Sonic chuckles at Caliburn, giving him the title of a knight. The context of that moment is that Sonic is tired of still being called knave after so long, to which Caliburn finally calls him a knight.
聖剣様だってモテるじゃないか。
当然だ。お前のようなひよっこと私を比べるな。
やれやれ、まだひよっこのままか。
いや。ソニック・ザ・ヘッジホッグ、お前の騎士道確かに見届けたぞ。今日から名乗るがいい。お前は風の騎士ソニックだ。
Since we're ignoring that Sonic just fully expressed how he feels about Caliburn, what was he supposed to do to not be an introvert there? Shower Caliburn in thank yous? Fukurou even uses Sonic telling Merlina to stop complimenting him to show that he's not proud or noble. This is actually not true that Sonic doesn't get proud or in your face about his achievements. I mean, we could just look at the opening to Black Knight. That is a cocky ass dude who's acting like none of this is even a big deal. Or the direct thing, when it comes to anything related to speed or Sonic saving the day, suddenly he loves talking about the things he can do and expresses how many times he's done it, which Fukurou even agrees with in the video.
One thing he will boast about is his speed. You usually hear him rightfully call himself the fastest, or with his speed, he can do it in no time.
Here's something to think about. What exactly is stopping an introvert from being proud or noble, or even in your face about things they achieved?
Sonic overall isn't an open person. The misconception lies within his confidence. Amy is depicted as an extrovert character, and is willing to tell her peers exactly how she feels. Sonic doesn't. Sonic never projects his experiences or current feelings, even when asked.
This is just not true. If Sonic is asked, he always says how he feels about something. Sonic is often throwing advice around at his friends and those he sees as a potential friend. Have you never played Sonic Rush before? You love to use examples of Black Knight all the time. Have you ever played Black Knight before? Sonic gives his perspective on things regularly. What are you talking about? I find it funny how she goes on to explain the many nuances of personality types in people, claiming that descriptions can be stereotypes, while purposely ignoring just how black and white she's been placing Sonic's introvert nature throughout the whole video.
Not all introverts are wallflowers. Not all extroverts are the life and soul of a party. These are stereotypes.
She then closes off this point by once again making a black and white statement.
Extroverts like to open up about how they feel. Introverts don't.
Based on what? Your definitions? What is stopping an extrovert from not opening up to people? Fukurou goes on to show how Sonic doesn't reveal his true feelings ever, as he makes cartoony facial expressions at Amy aggressively fantasizing about him.
He never talks about his werehog form, even though he's sensitive about this new look.
Fukurou claims that Sonic never talks about his werehog form to Tails, which is funny because the conversation they have in that same cutscene is Sonic talking to Tails about his new form. I wonder why that part's left out of her video.
He briefly asks Chara if she can remove his arrow of justice, and although he laughs off any negativity, it's clear it has bothered him and wishes it could be removed.
Fukurou uses a really good example for Sonic and the Secret Rings, where Sonic pretends the flame doesn't bother him. That is, if Sonic was my idea of an extrovert. Come to think of it, I'm not seeing anything about forcing a positive outlook in your definition. Always seeing the positives and trying to make everybody around you happy. Why would an introvert care about making everybody else comfortable? They don't even want to be around people for that long and would rather leave, right? It's important to note that Sonic also makes very fast friends with Chara, something that Fukurou's idea of an introvert would struggle to do because apparently all introverts have to have a harder time putting themselves out there. However, for Sonic, Putting himself out there is a walk in the park. He acts like Shara's his best buddy that he hasn't seen in years, immediately joking and making quick friends with her.
Finally, Sonic is one awkward individual. What do I mean by this? His social cues aren't as natural as one may think. His poker face seems to be his "hey, you can do it" attitude, but behind this maybe facade is someone very unnatural.
Oh no. You can't make a point about how somebody is literally pretending to feel a certain way and then say it's maybe a facade. You're literally using this to prove your argument and you say maybe? Dude, Sonic is not awkward. This is a ridiculous thing to say. He's the first to act, first to cheer somebody up, always knows the right things to say, can make friends with ease, he's very assertive in how he chooses to live his life, and he can even flip the morality of characters. Sonic knows exactly who he is. He knows how he feels and what he wants. The confidence is not a facade, and literally 0% of scenes have ever proven his confidence is a second face. The only time I would ever agree that Sonic is awkward is when it comes to romance, his literal only social weakness.
In conclusion, Sonic fits the description of an introvert, hands down. His solitude, awkwardness, inward thinking, and quietness. He's not the life and soul of a party. He would run away from such events, or chill out in a corner. He doesn't try to mingle with others, besides his close friends, and even then, he's not as open to them. He keeps all his feelings to himself. The times he does let his cockiness shine through is during the very thing he's good at, battling Eggman. He's not good at public speaking or being in the limelight at all.
Do you mean he fits your description of an introvert? Knuckles was literally your counter example multiple times for the way Sonic was acting. What do you mean it fits the description of an introvert? I can only imagine how this video would look if I made one that just goes over how Knuckles should be based on how you see an introvert. Well, that was something. Anyway, in conclusion, Sonic fits the description of an ambivert, and here's why. While Sonic loves his alone time, he also loves hanging out with his friends. He even likes spending time with people that he oftentimes has only just met. After all, you can't save the world if you're just relaxing all day by yourself. You gotta go out there and meet people. And Sonic always finds a time for not only himself, but others. Now for my hyper-pretentious definition that has no basis in reality, but sure sounds good. Sonic is an ambivert. He shows an incredible ability to make friends with everyone around him. More often than not, the person has only met him for a day, and they're already inspired by his presence. He's the brightest star in the room with his quick-witted remarks and extremely approachable can-do attitude. Sonic focuses on all the good things in life and is always there to lend a helping hand to anyone in the world that needs his help. He is a leader in every right and people look to him for guidance. He's usually the first on the scene and the first to act when everybody else is frozen in fear. He brings the energy and the laughs, regardless of if anybody even asks for it. Sonic saves the day and is always seeking for people that need his help. He even helps people leave the darkest places of their lives. Sonic displays his emotions proudly, whether he's being impatient or showing that he genuinely cares about somebody. Sonic knows when it's time to laugh and when it's time to chill out. Sonic is just the right person for every occasion. But even Sonic loves to cuddle up with himself all alone and watch as the sun goes down. When he's not saving the world or hanging out with people, he's out by himself, enjoying the world for what it is. Like, comment, subscribe, follow me on Twitter, okay, bye!